everybody. This is Off Leash with Erik Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. If you've seen the movie The Purge, the real-life Purge is happening right now within our own hemisphere in Haiti. Erik, it's the only way to describe it is The Purge. Here's what's happening, as you know. Armed gangs have attacked airports, police stations, and prisons in Haiti. They've taken control of the country's main port in the capital city of Port-au-Prince. This all happened when the prime minister, who was placed in there by the United States in 2021, Ariel Henry, left the country. He was out on some tour, and the gangs have taken over. This is the Purge. The gangs have taken over the country.
Inmates are running the asylum.
And they've cleared thousands from the jail, the prisons. Yep. This is a country of 11 million people. It's been in complete disarray and chaos for decades, probably. But in terms of this crisis right now that's happening, where the gangs have taken over the country, how did we get here just in recent history the last couple of years?
The previous president, Moise, was
Jovenel
Moise.
Yep.
Was in his the presidential palace, and a hit team of some Colombians assaulted the presidential grounds and eventually broke in. Not one competent guard tried to stop them. I mean, one guy standing on the roof because they were trying to cut this big iron fence at the gate. One competent guard that would have dumped a magazine of rifle rounds into the gang would have finished it. But no, they break in, they find the president in his bedchamber, and they kill him ugly. And the wife, they shoot her a couple times and they leave her for dead. She survived.
Who was backing the gang? Like, who prompted the gang to take out Moise?
One of the drug lords in the country, because Moise was actually trying to clamp down, to put a proper police program together, trying to do something, and the gangs flexed up and they took him out. And so you have there is no other country in the world that is more melted down and chaotic. I mean, sadly, the Taliban running Kabul is more orderly than Haiti.
But this one's in our backyard.
This isn't our backyard.
Yeah.
And we should care because we don't need 11 million Haitians getting in boats coming to Miami, because literally the country cannot run itself.
So Moise is taken out. The U.S. installs Ariel Henry.
Yeah, I think he was the vice president.
He was the vice president at the time. Okay. So they install him. He was reluctant to put in place any real reforms, and the U.S. just kind of kicked the can down the road, correct?
Reluctant or lacked the wherewithal to do it. I mean, it's an easy contrast between what Bukele did in El Salvador. El Salvador was the murder capital of the Western Hemisphere, a total meltdown state. You had the MS-13 gangs and other derivatives doing drugs and murder and extortion, kidnapping, all through the country, pervasive, causing all kinds of refugees to come to America. But he locked it down. He built a police force, and the State Department, the U.S. State Department, was fighting him and resisting him all the way for trying to reestablish law and order. Now, effectively, you have Haiti being run by the U.S. Embassy and by Maine State headquarters, and it's the perfect embodiment of a completely failed, incompetent statecraft.
This is a U.S.-run nation, effectively.
Effectively, because it's constantly in bankruptcy, disaster, and then there's a hurricane or an earthquake, more disaster, more famine, more disease, and it's never, ever, ever been able to run itself. And so it's run by the State Department and run horribly.
Why is it in the U.S. interest for us to block reforms like that? I mean, that's totally nonsensical.
Because we have people in those positions of authority that are not qualified to be making any decisions like that.
Would you include Brian Nichols?
I put him at the top of the list of the problem set here.
Okay, who's Brian Nichols?
Brian Nichols is the Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere, which is everything from basically Mexico south.
Career diplomat?
A career diplomat, a career bureaucrat.
Okay.
And he's moved around South America and apparently leaving a trail of destruction. because what a disaster Haiti is. It was, and this is also fixable. It's really not that difficult.
So former U.S. Ambassador James Foley was quoted on the crisis right now regarding Ariel Henry, the Prime Minister. They rode this horse to their doom, meaning the U.S. State Department, right? And yet there are lives on the line. Now Port-au-Prince is controlled, 80% of Port-au-Prince is controlled by the gangs.
Yes.
It's the
So they control the fuel supply, the food supply, and now they even control the airport. The president, Henry, was out of the country trying to negotiate a deal, to finalize a deal, to send Kenyan troops. Again, this is a Biden administration idea, to send English and Swahili-speaking black Kenyan troops to Haiti, 8,000 miles away? It makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay, so Henry, the Prime Minister, could not be pursuing Kenyan troops if the U.S. State Department didn't approve of it.
U.S. was funding
right?
it.
Was funding it.
Yes.
And so clearly the U.S. sees a need for security in the nation, and yet they're going to pull from Kenya?
And so they're basically hiring contractors because the Kenyans are not coming for free. There's U.S. money that's paid to the Kenyan government, I'm sure to some key Kenyan officials, to send troops that are of mixed motivation because the troops aren't going to get paid that much. The politicians above them are who gets paid. So the State Department is basically using contractors. They're just not using very effective ones.
Looks like Henry was a few weeks late with the Kenyan security force.
Apparently. Yeah, so now he can't get back in the country because the airport is closed. And
all right, so he's trying to come back home.
Yes.
They'd already taken over, the gangs had taken over the airport. Yep. He tries to get back home. He tries to land in the Dominican Republic next door so he can re-enter Haiti by ground.
Yep.
Here we go. Let's take a look at the region, okay?
You have Haiti. So that's the island of Hispaniola. That is the original place, oddly enough, that Columbus landed.
Right.
1492.
Okay.
You can literally see the difference in governance if you fly over. From 35,000 feet, you can clearly see the border. Why? Because everything in Haiti has been denuded of vegetation. The trees, the plants. Haiti is brown. Dominican Republic side is green.
So this is two countries that share the same island.
Same island.
And you're traveling overhead, and you literally could tell which country is which because Haiti is barren.
Literally from 6 miles in the sky. Yes, you can definitize.
Why? How did it get stripped?
Haiti was a French slave colony. There was a slave revolt, I think in 1790 something, and they killed a lot of the French, drove them away, and achieved some kind of independence. And it has been a struggling disaster of a country ever since.
Okay, but now it's under the watch of Joe Biden and Antony Blinken's State Department, and run by Brian Nichols.
Brian Nichols.
A policy genius, evidently. They approve Henry to go and negotiate a deal to get Kenyan security forces into Haiti. He tries to fly back. He tries to go into the Dominican Republic. He can't get in there. Actually, I think the U.S. blocked him. And now he's in Puerto Rico. He's history, right? He's out.
So now they're talking about forming some other three-party committee-sized government. Look, they need to put one person in charge and clean that place up and rule with an iron fist.
Well, they got a much bigger problem because any sort of ruling authority isn't going to be able to get control of the gangs instantly without a lot of help, right?
Correct. And the sad thing is, I was approached by President Henry's lawyer just over a year ago, asking two things. They were paying way too much for fuel, or diesel fuel, because you can imagine the payment terms. Haiti's not a very reliable payer. So they needed cheaper fuel to literally power the country, and obviously they needed security. And nobody is going to do any kind of deal in fuel if you have the constant threat of gangs taking over the actual fuel pier in downtown Port-au-Prince. So we had a package ready to go. The savings of what they would have paid less in fuel would have paid tens of millions of dollars for a proper counter-gang squad that we were going to provide to Haiti. I was going to staff it with Canadian special forces from Quebec. Why? They speak French. They understand the Western way of policing. They speak French, and they would have been an advise, assist, mentor role, attaching to 40 to 50 young Haitian police officers that would have been trained, provide them good intelligence, a little bit of drone capability, maybe one helicopter, and that unit could have made very quick work of those gangs. I mean, the head gang leader, his name is Barbecue. Why? Because his enemies, he barbecues. I had probably the most effective Christian mission organization in the world. The chief operating officer has done a lot of work in Haiti, and he's done work all over the world. He said he has never seen a place so dark, so evil, with such terrible things happening all over the country as Haiti. So this is a complete and total disaster. It requires actual law enforcement. I feel terrible for the poor citizens of Haiti that wake up in that level of despair. They're literally living in garbage and human waste.
And the prison has now been
And now the
emptied
prison
out.
has been emptied,
Right.
with 4,000 even worse people.
Yeah.
And so it's just a complete spiral to the 7 levels of hell, and they're well on their way.
But I want to understand
I throw this around the neck of Brian Nichols because he blocked that program from happening.
Okay.
They would have had cheaper fuel, and trust me, a police program that would have suppressed the gangs and restored law and order to the capital.
To get cheaper fuel as the primary source of energy for the island country.
For electricity, for heaven's sake.
And the savings will actually fund a security force.
Yep.
And you're saying that Brian Nichols from the Biden State Department blocked it.
He instructed Prime Minister Henry or President Henry to not take the meeting with me to finalize the deal.
Because it was you.
Yes. So, and I compare that to what Bukele did in El Salvador. And I was at CPAC when Bukele came to speak. And I was in the back of the house, meaning behind the stage when his motorcade arrived. And within seconds of him arriving, there was like 30, 40 El Salvadoran kitchen workers that came out, and they loved that man. They were, chanting
These
his
are people
name.
who immigrated here legally, no doubt, most of them.
They came here because they were fleeing the gang violence
Right.
in El Salvador. MS-13. What is MS-13? MS-13 is ex-leftist gang members fighting from the El Salvadoran, I think it's FMLN, the Farabundi Marti
Right.
Liberation Nacional, a leftist communist group that was fighting against the government of El Salvador in the 80s. And when they were defeated, they became MS-13. They became gangbangers. So people were fleeing to America, and those people, having seen Bukele in the house, came out of nowhere with hand-printed signs, absolutely in love with that.
And
man.
they hail him as a hero.
I've never seen such fan behavior on adults. And so that guy clearly earned it. And so Haiti needs that. Haiti needs law and order. Haiti needs someone to put barbecue in the ground.
All right, so we'll get back to barbecue and putting him in the ground. First, you got your own history in Haiti, going back to your earliest days as a SEAL,
Yes.
30 years ago. I want you to run us through that because you've got personal experience in Haiti.
Again, like we said, there's been an endless string of really bad, super corrupt leadership of Haiti. And at that point in the early 90s, it was the Duvaliers, Baby Doc Duvalier. And he was being pushed out by another bad idea, Aristide, who was this super leftist Marxist priest.
But he sold himself off as a priest.
Sold himself off as a priest.
Right.
He's a complete liberation theology thug. And so the U.S. invades, Clinton invades,
94.
1994. And I was a young SEAL officer, and we were with a Marine amphibious group, and the job was to do some amphibious reconnaissance as part of the Marine activity there. And so we were going into Cap Haitian, which is up in the north. It's the second largest city. We planned the amount of shots each of the guys had to get was staggering because 2 million people in Cap Haitian then, no sewage system. So it was direct discharge into the water that we're swimming in. Normally when you're doing amphibious reconnaissance, you want to be nice and low in the water and very sneaky. Definitely had more flotation that day to keep your face out of the water because you didn't want any water splashing in your mouth.
Yeah, but the air you're breathing is probably not a heck of a lot better.
You could
Right.
taste it in the air. Yes. So we kind of planned that 50% of the guys were going to get really sick from the water just for any follow-on activities from doing that. So it
was the justification by Clinton to secure our embassy, or was it a broader mission than that?
It was to change the regime from
was to
one
change
corrupt
the
regime to another corrupt regime.
And what was the at that moment? What was Duvalier's status and Aristide's status? Was there an election?
They hadn't had any real elections in the countries. I mean, everything is a joke.
Right.
The country would be better off being run by the United Fruit Company or Dole Pineapple. It's sad. I feel terrible for the people there. It is literally the embodiment of failed governance in every way, shape, and form. When I talk about Hernando de Soto comparing why Peru was rough compared to Switzerland, where he worked in both those countries, and the basics of property rights, a business license, any kind of court system, the ability to get a banking
None of that
account.
exists.
None of that at all. It is subsistence. Literally, people trying to scrape out the poorest, the lowest form of existence, selling themselves, selling organs, selling their children. It is the worst of the worst of the worst.
Did you have direct contact with Haitians when you entered Haiti?
Sure.
Did they welcome you? Regular citizens?
Yes, they're always happy to see. Look, because there's a little bit of peace and order that
Right.
follows the American troop presence.
And you'd think with the earthquake, which I think was around 2011, you'd think that would have offered an opportunity, despite the tragedy, an opportunity for a reset, right? For sort of a reconstruction of the country. And yet we didn't experience that.
It even got worse, and because it reinforced all the money that went, and reinforced the most corrupt aspects of Haitian society. I was even contacted by a Canadian woman running an NGO in Haiti, asking if I could provide aircraft. I said, "Why do we need aircraft for?" To fly every day from Port-au-Prince to Managua, Nicaragua. I said, "Why on earth are you doing that?" I said, "Well, we can get tickets for the people." I said, "Oh, I know why you're doing that. Because you're going to run immigrants, illegals. You're going to fly them from Haiti. They can land visa-free, right? Nicaragua is participating in the U.S. invasion. So they fly into Nicaragua, and now 230, right? A 737 full of people. People start walking into America illegally. This is the NGOs present. That's another thing that needs to be fixed.
So the corruption is coming from the
corruption,
U.S.-funded NGOs.
The corruption, the perpetuation of a lot of the human misery comes from the NGOs. Instead of saying, we're here to actually provide, and even when necessary, enforce the basics of property rights, the basics of civil rights, of the basics of capitalism.
Commerce and banking.
They're there doing nonsense, living very well, spending most of their budget in supporting their people in country that are not being very effective. So it's the State Department USAID model in these countries deserves to be completely upended and restarted in a completely different way, because that is a disaster.
All right, so this is our exit for this segment. The crisis that we're experiencing right now didn't just start this week. You're obviously describing decades of chaos, but in 2023, there are more than 8,400 people killed, injured, or kidnapped. I mean, so it's this gang control, this purge is not brand new. And by the way, that number is double from 2022. So this crisis has been rising.
That's probably a low number, because you'll find bodies laying along the streets anytime you drive through the streets there. It's absolute carnage and mayhem.
So the U.S. response, let's talk about the U.S. response, because we've already talked about this security force from Kenya, which sounds absurd. But at the same time now, supposedly the White House is considering deploying a Marine Corps security force regiment from Yorktown, Virginia. I suppose, presumably, to take control of the U.S. Embassy at a minimum.
It's called the FAST team,
okay.
and they're there to prevent the overrun of the embassy. As the country continues to spiral into the 7 levels of hell, eventually people are going to get desperate and try to storm the embassy to say, get me out of here.
How realistic is that? And what are the other options for U.S. response?
It's another Band-Aid upon another Band-Aid. If they had allowed, if the brilliant State Department had allowed us to build a police unit there to crush the gangs and provide a much lower fuel cost, you start to unwind the tentacles of control these snakes have, the big gangs and the drug gangs. And the other really bad nexus to this is the amount of money that the Haitian elites give to a lot of Democrats. like Sheila Jackson Lee gets a lot of money from some of the Haitian elites. So it's
How many
interesting.
elites are there in Haiti?
Where's
their money coming from?
There's some people still making a lot of money off of that much poverty and deprivation.
Last question. Will the U.S. invade Haiti to restore a secure nation?
I certainly doubt it, but it's another embodiment of the Biden State Department Blinken approach to governance, and it is clearly failing. And America deserves better, and certainly our neighbors deserve better.
So it is in our national security interest for there to be a secure Haiti.
We have a wide open border. We have NGOs actively seeking and enabling aircraft because I said hell no to providing an aircraft to fly Haitians to Nicaragua to invade America.
Right.
But I'm sure they found somebody to do it. So you have NGOs enabling, probably with U.S. tax dollars, flying people from Haiti to have them walk into America. So yes, it's in our security interest to fix that place and to fix it properly.
So it's yet another hotspot under the Biden regime in an election year.
11 million people in a completely melted country.
Chaos, and like I said, this is the Purge, live, real life.
It's a consistent disaster.
Incredible breaking down of the crisis in Haiti from Erik. This is Off Leash with Erik Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. Don't forget, go to unplugged.com/off-leash to check out the Unplugged phone, our sponsor here at Off Leash. Thanks for joining us. That's it for this segment of Off Leash.